Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely crucial, the sheer power of thinking big. We're going to look at how the sheer size of our ambitions actually dictates our physical and mental capabilities. And as you'll see, we'll uncover exactly why setting bigger goals fundamentally changes how our minds operate. It's fascinating stuff.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've all been there, right? You set this massive goal, you fail to reach it, and your immediate instinct is to just lower the bar. You tell yourself, you know what, maybe I should aim for something a bit more realistic. Let's make it easier. But what if making your goals easier is actually the exact thing setting you up for a faster, more dramatic failure? Seriously, what if lowering your expectations is actively shutting down your body and mind's ability to succeed? To really wrap our heads around why this happens, let's look at an ancient fable. It starts a long time ago, with a father taking his young son deep into a forest. His mission? To teach the boy the ancient, disciplined art of archery. So he hands his son a bow and an arrow, positions him in this clearing, and gets ready to teach him how to lock onto a target and let it fly.
So the father points out this neem tree standing quite a distance away. He sets that distant tree as the very first target and tells his son to stand his ground and take the shot. The young boy, obviously eager to impress his dad, pulls back on the bowstring with absolutely all his might. He puts every single ounce of his strength into it and releases the arrow. But hitting the target? Totally out of the question. The arrow doesn't even come close. It loses momentum and falls straight to the ground, way before reaching that distant neem tree. The father immediately thinks, okay, I've made the target way too far for a beginner.
Let's move on and see how this builds. Thinking that first target was just too difficult, the father spots a mango tree standing considerably closer than the neem tree, so he adjusts the target. He tells his son to aim for the mango tree instead. The boy readies himself, pulls the bowstring hard, and shoots. But again, the arrow falls short, dropping to the earth before reaching the mango tree. Thinking the boy needs an even easier win, the father spots a coconut tree that is even closer. He points to it. "Try that one," he says. The boy draws the bow with all his strength, lets the arrow fly, and incredibly it falls short yet again, crashing to the ground before even reaching the closest target.
Now the father walks out to collect the fallen arrows, and as he's gathering them from the ground, this totally confusing realization washes over him. When the boy aimed for the furthest target, the neem tree, the arrow traveled far enough to reach where the mango tree stood. When he aimed for the mango tree, the arrow traveled just far enough to reach the coconut tree. But when he aimed for the closest target of all, the coconut tree, the arrow barely traveled at all, falling completely short of everything.
The father just stands there, analyzing this incredible paradox. As he brought the targets closer and closer to his son, hoping to make the task easier, the arrows were actually falling shorter and shorter. Literally, the easier the target became, the worse the arrow performed. The boy was applying what felt like his maximum effort every single time, yet the physical output was shrinking in direct proportion to how close the target was.
Armed with this completely counterintuitive insight, the father decides to completely flip his strategy. Instead of making it easier, he makes it seemingly impossible. He looks way past the original neem tree. He spots a peepal tree, and behind that, standing massive and incredibly far away, a towering banyan tree. He points to that distant banyan tree and tells his son, "That is your new target. Hit that."
Faced with this one single imposing shot, the boy locks his eyes on the distant banyan tree. It's a target further than he ever imagined he could reach. He draws the bow back, his muscles straining to their absolute limits, pulling with a force he didn't even know he possessed, and releases. The arrow slices through the air, flying further than any of his previous attempts, soaring over the ground and eventually landing right at the peepal tree. By aiming for the impossible banyan tree, he easily cleared the distance of his original failed shots.
Now, as you've probably guessed by now, the story isn't really about arrows or trees. It's actually a really powerful visual metaphor for our own ambitions, our mindset, and how we dictate our own limits. Let's break down exactly what this means for you and me.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how perfectly the bow represents the human mind. Think about it. Just like a physical bow, your mind has tension, it has elasticity, and it has this massive latent power just waiting to be drawn upon. But a bow doesn't just pull itself back, right? It requires an external target to determine exactly how much tension is actually required.
And if the bow is our mind, well, the loaded arrow represents our dreams and our goals. When you set a goal, you're essentially placing an arrow on the string. And here is the real secret. Your mind will only stretch exactly in proportion to the size of the dream you load into it. If your dream is small and close by, your mind's only going to pull back a tiny bit. It won't grant you access to your full reserves of energy, or creativity, or resilience, because quite simply, it doesn't think you need them.
So this brings us to the immense power of big dreams. When we think big, when we set a target that feels massive and almost out of reach, our brain instinctively applies more effort. It pulls the bowstring back to its absolute limit. We naturally work harder, we try more things, we push through more barriers, and ultimately, we cover a much greater distance in life. The size of the goal literally dictates the size of the biological and psychological effort. And this brilliantly illustrates a stark contrast in outcomes. When you adopt a thinking small mindset, you subconsciously output way less effort. And the result is you only travel half the distance, often falling short of even that easy goal. You basically end up trapped in your own self-made boundaries. But thinking big? That forces your system to deploy at full strength. It guarantees a long flight. You might not hit that impossibly distant banyan tree, sure, but you are absolutely going to soar past the trees you were previously struggling to reach. There's this beautifully poetic thought from the source material that captures this perfectly. If you think about the stars, you might at least reach the sky, but if you only think about the ground, you might stop halfway. You know, people will often tell you not to think too big. They'll warn you that you're going to fall and get hurt. But the truth shown here is that only those who think high rise high. Aiming for the ground pretty much guarantees you end up stuck in the dirt. So the crucial point is this universal truth of human endeavor. We usually only achieve a fraction of what we originally aimed for. The boy aimed for the banyan and hit the people. He aimed for the neem and hit the mango. Because we naturally only capture a percentage of our grandest thoughts, the initial target must be astronomically huge. If you want to achieve truly great things, you literally cannot afford to set realistic goals. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Where is your target set right now? Are you aiming at the coconut tree just because you're afraid of missing? Or are you willing to look past those self-imposed boundaries and aim for the stars, knowing that the simple act of drawing your bow to its maximum limit is what truly guarantees you'll fly further than you ever thought possible? Thank you so much for exploring this with me. And remember, keep your thoughts big and your targets distant. Catch you next time.